Hello, delegates. In today's video, we are going to explain how to make a solid argument for your next interventions, for your next portfolios, and for every single work you have in school. So please, you need to pay attention to this video because we are going to explain every single detail of how to do a solid argument or a reason argument.
So, what is an argument? Well, an argument is an exchange of devising of opposite views that are reasons given to support an idea, a discussion, or a conclusion. Also, these are reasons to giving an accept conclusion, attempting to persuade something of theories, topics, or ideas.
Well, in simple words, an argument is a statement that is used to convince a public or a group of people of your ideas. So, why is important of writing a strong arguments for the model and for every single aspect of your life that you're going to use a solid argument? First of all, for the United Nations model of Jamun, it's very important that you need to write strong arguments. First of all, to convince the auditory, to convince the other delegates about your own ideas, solutions, or problems that you're proposing to the audience. If the committee sees that you have good ideas, that you have good arguments, solid arguments, they are going to ally with your delegation. And this is very important because your solutions are going to be the best for all the committee. Second, because if you give strong arguments to the committee and to the audience, to the delegations are going to have clear what is your position, what is the position of your country about the topic. And it's very important because in the time that you're going to do the blogs, every single delegation needs to have clear what is your position in order to have a good blogs and for do the resolution papers. And thirdly, because for example, if you have very good ideas, but you don't know how to express them and you don't know how to organize them in order to have a solid argument, these ideas, these excellent ideas that you have will be irrelevant for the committee and well, they're not going to be taken into account for the solutions and for all that.
Delegates, remember the way you express your ideas is crucial for the commit. Remember, if you have great ideas, great resolutions, but you don't have impact on the committee, the solutions will be passed by and anyone will notice that. So please make this present 100% of your skills. Well, an argument is divided in four parts: the statement, the evidence, the reasoning or explanation, and finally, but not least, the conclusion. So, first, the statement is the initial affirmation which introduces the main idea or the main topic. Here is the context of what's happening in the context of the topic or the idea you want to give. Then is the evidence which supports your initial statement or the initial context you give, given examples, facts, or data. Then is the reasoning or explanation. Here, this section explains why or why not this evidence supports this statement. Here is where you say also your data, more specific data like numbers or dates, or also laws. And finally, is the conclusion that is not an absolute conclusion, but in sort of in the next page, will you see how is this conclusion? Well, this submit the main idea for calling attention of other delegates and be more specific on what you want to give of the comment.
Well, here you can see an example of a good reason argument. We can see the statement, the evidence, the reasoning or explanation, and finally the partial conclusion. First of all, you can see here in the statement that it's the text is giving us like a little context of what it's going to be discussed on. And later in the evidence, you can see, for example, some data and some information taken from the World Health Organization where it shows like the thing that you're going to explain later. It is like a little support for like a little evidence and support for your argument. It's very important and crucial this part. And later, there is an explanation. You're going to explain the data that you are giving in the evidence, and you're going to make a relation between the data and the topic that you're talking about. So basically, you're explaining why, uh, following the evidence, what you're going to talk and what you're demonstrating with a reason argument. And finally, a conclusion where you resume all the information that you talk during the argument. Well, it's very important because you explain in a better way all the information, but very in simple words, like very resume. Well, delegates, there is an argument as a solid intervention for the debate. We want you as presidents to apply this structure for doing your interventions because we think that if you have very good ideas but you don't know how to organize your ideas and make it a valid structure to explain to the committee, the ideas are not going to be as relevant as we want for the committee. So we are inviting you to apply this structure that we are explaining in your interventions in order to have a better, a good, excellent intervention, and that all delegates are going to pay attention to your intervention. And also, they are going to understand the information. That is the most important thing because the thing that we want is that everyone understands your intervention and how to achieve that with a good structure. For example, first, you need a reason argument. Later, for the intervention, we recommend you a set of things that, for example, the how you express your intervention, how you communicate your interventions, and the resources you use for explaining your reason argument. Okay.
Well, delegates, if you have excellent information, give an expressing idea, an expressing skill for having a more impact in the command. So here are some tips you're gonna take it to account. First, moving around the space. When you set your arguments, please move around the space. They have more impact on the command. But first of all, you need to set up a motion for use the space. Don't start using the space without the permission of the chair. So remember that. Also, the good body language, moving your hands in a good way. Um, Helps your public understand more the information you want to give for a better understanding. Later, we have an appropriate tone of voice. Please, delegates, use a loud tone of voice. Don't talk like this always because the command will be like asleep. So use loud voice, use a strong voice for make your arguments more important, more relevant. Then the pauses. If you want some important details to mark on your ideas, please make pauses, like I'm making now. Make the pauses for a better understanding for all the people you're talking, for marking your ideas, marking dates, marking data that you want all everybody want to remember. Then a good orality and pronunciation. Please don't talk too fast because we do not understand. Yes, we don't understand talking too fast, but also don't talk too slow because the command will be sleep again. And the good pronunciation, please, a good pronunciation of words give a better understanding on the ideas you want to give.
Well, in conclusion, in simple words, how to write an intervention and an argument as using the tips that we explained you during this video. First of all, an intervention is when you go and speak and communicate in front of the other delegates and you explain your country's position, opinion, and ideas regarding the problem or the debate that we are talking about in the commission. So we recommend you to do an intervention, to do a well intervention to take this into account. First of all, write a short greeting need not to to say like hello, share, and delegates the like to give a short greeting. Later, you need to say like the what problem is and what what your country or your delegation is going to talk about, like the actual problem that you are discussing in this moment, because there could be a huge problem, but the committee in that moment could be focused in just one simple problem that is a branch of the whole problem. Later, you need to give say what your position is, said and communicate the position of your delegation regarding that small problem. To give like a context to the other delegates of how are your ideas and positions regarding the problem. And finally, give a solution or an idea that your delegation is having for solving the problem in the committee.
Delegate, remember you need to find ideas. This is the UN. We don't want more conflicts. We don't want a World War III. So remember, we need solutions for the two topics we're having on the command. So later, in simple words, here is how to write an intervention or an argument. Well, an argument is when you defend your country's idea by explaining with good proof or the right that you have. So, first of all, you need to write the main idea. What is your main idea or the position of your country? Why are you giving this idea? Then you give the reason of why you're giving this idea, like why you are saying that this idea is good and why all the committee need to be in favor of this. Then after you explain why all the committee need to be approve of this, you explain the data or the proof that you have to make it this real. Also, you can make an example or some real cases. Also, this helps too much. Finally, you finish with a short conclusion of your idea. Do not explain the proof or the reason. You give a conclusion of your idea, making this more specific when you have to give the solution.
Well, delegates, please pay attention to this part because it's just very important. For your evidence, you need a very good source where you're giving your explanation, where you're giving the data or the information that you're explaining. So I'm going to explain the importance of the reliable sources for the argument. A strong argument requires and demands reliable sources to explain it in the evidence of your argument, of your reason argument, or in your strong argument. So if you use very good sources, if you use sources just as National Geographic, BBC News, or others, you're going to make your argument more likely to believe in what you said, okay? So basically, this proves that you research and you understand the topic while using these important and reliable sources. For example, if I set a data from a source that we can't trust, for example, El Rincón del Vago, I cite this source, the delegates are not going to believe me, but I need that the delegates believe in what I'm saying and follow my ideas and proposals. Like I need to convince the delegates, and how can I convince them? Why? By using these reliable sources. So it's very important that you use these important sources and reliable sources in order to have a strong argument and a strong evidences, so you can explain in a better way your ideas and your position of your country and your delegation, and also your solutions. Well, delegates, this has been like all the video. We hope that you have been paying attention to this video because it's very important for the dates of the debate.
If you haven't seen the simulation or also the other meetings, please watch this video for being more on context. And yes, that is all that we have. So let's say bye.
Bye, delegates.
Bye,
Thank you very
delegates.
much for seeing the video. Bye.